Hi, I'm Callie from Coding with Callie, and I am building a website builder. By day, I'm a site reliability engineer at HashiCorp, and by night, I'm working on my full stack development skills. In today's video, we're going to talk about how you seed a database. All right. For my website builder, when you initially load the page, you want to make sure that there is 3 things in the database in order for the page to work properly. 1, we need an admin user, me. 2, we need a home page, so that way the end user has something to see, and that home page needs to be published. And 3, we need a wildcard page, so that way the router on my front end knows what to do if someone types in a URL that is a different path than what we've intended to show. Let's take a look. In my main.go file, which is where my API gets run when I start up my program, all right, you'll see that we have this database.seed function. This is what we're going to look at today. So we first load the configuration. And we do this because we want to get the admin password out of an environment variable. I don't want my admin password to be written in my code here, so I'm going to use a variable to do so instead. This is going to help us when we deploy our website builder, because when it's deployed, I can have an environment variable written in my Docker file that I can just get pulled right in. But I can't just save a plain text password. So first, I need to have it, and I can just use bcrypt to do that. Then I'm going to actually write the SQL code and do the SQL statement to create that admin user. So I'm inserting a user into the users table. All right, and here are the columns that I'm going to fill out. First name, last name, email, username, password, role, and photo. So you can see that I pretty much hard-coded most of it, which will need to change. I'll need to add that to my config file too, but for now, that's good enough. I use a variable for the hashed password, and then admin for my role, and an S3 picture. I want to use query row for this because I want to return my user ID. And the reason for that is because I want to use that user ID in the next 2 pieces of functionality, during which I create a home page and then my wildcard page. The reason I need my user ID is because there's a foreign key to that user ID in creator ID in my page table. I want to know who's created each page, so I can use my user ID to do so. You'll see in my home page, all right, that I'm going to have a create date, which is now, and then I'm going to also have a publish date, which is now, because I want a published page for my end user to see. It's going to say something like under construction, come back later. But it's good that it's published, so there's a page that someone's seeing. Excuse me. If there's an error, we're going to log that error, and then we'll create our wildcard page if it doesn't exist. And if there's an error, we'll log that error. So what is a wildcard page? A wildcard page is a catch-all. So if a user types in codingwithcallie.com/potato, and I don't have that route potato in my router, the wildcard page will catch it and say, this doesn't match anything that we have. So I'm going to show a page not found component for anything that's not what we planned for. And the way that you can do that is the path/star. Okay? So one of the edge cases or issues that we could run into with this is that we want to make sure we only create the home page and the wildcard page and the admin user if they don't already exist. So what I did is I made sure when I created my tables that I had some unique constraints put on some of the columns. In our user table, we cannot have a duplicate username and email. So if I'm creating an admin user and there's a conflict because there's already that username or email, then what I'm saying here is just don't do anything. Don't put this information in the database also don't send an error because it's not an error that we care about. All right. What about here? Here, it's the same thing, but instead of username and email being the conflict, we want to say there's a unique constraint on the menu name and the path. We don't want the same menu name and path for any page. So if there's already a menu name and path that match, that's a conflict. But in that case, we won't do anything. We're not going to send an error, but we're also not going to add the data. All right, let's go ahead and take a look. So the first thing that we're going to do is look in our database. You can see we have a users table, and if I view the data, there's nothing in it. And if we go and look at our pages table, you can see that once again, there's nothing in it. All right, let's start up our API and see what happens. You can see that our API is started because we have all of these routes here. All right, and if you look from here, there are no error messages in our info. We just have info logs. So that means that we successfully created our tables, our users and pages. So let's refresh this. And now you can see that we have our pages, our home page and our wildcard page. Pretty cool, huh? We also have our user that got created. Also pretty cool. Now let's go ahead and restart our API because we want to test it started, but it didn't add it twice. And if we start it here, we can see that it failed to create test user because no rows were in the result set. All right, that's because here we're trying to scan for the user ID after, and maybe we'll make some better error handling here to account for that, but it's doing what it wants. It's doing what it's supposed to do. On conflict, it didn't create the user, so it can't scan for it. So let's refresh our table, and you can still, we see only the one user. Let's go to our page table and refresh, and you can see that we only have those two pages. So now what does this look like on the front end? If I load my page here, you can see that we have a home page that's viewable, and you can see that if I type in /potato, we will see our page not found. Pretty cool, huh? We also still have the ability to log in here because I have an admin and I am acting as that admin now on my page, if I log in, that is. All right, thank you for watching. I'm going to be posting throughout my journey, so if you're excited to build along with me, go ahead and subscribe. Thanks. Have a good day.